Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Girl Take Note. It's Shaunie Sanders, and I am super excited about today's episode. And I think it's because we're getting real about something I think a lot of us struggle with, and that is embracing our authentic selves. So, if you ever felt the need to apologize for who you are, whether that's through people pleasing, dimming your light, or getting caught up in the highlight reel of social media, because we do that sometimes, then this episode is definitely going to be for you. We're going to be talking about why it's time to stop apologizing for just being you and how to step up fully into your authentic self. So let's just go ahead and get into it. This is Girl Take Note, a podcast for women who are looking to turn their dreams into reality. So let's start with one of the biggest culprits, social media. That's right. I said it, social media. Social media can be a powerful tool for connections, but it's also a trap for comparison, right? We compare ourselves a lot to people because of what we see on social media. Like we're constantly seeing everyone's best moments, perfect selfies, career wins, and dream vacations. It's easy to feel like you need to present yourself in a certain way just to measure up. But I think that's what we call like social proof, right? We feel like we got to have some kind of social proof to show that we have some kind of life. But what we need to remember that most of us, of what we see online is a filtered version of people's reality. We only see what people want us to see. And I saw this study is from the Royal Society for Public Health. And I found that social media increases feelings of inadequacy, anxiety in young women by nearly 70%. So this is why like social media have such a huge effect on our life. Like it increases our anxiety. It makes us feel inadequate just because we look at other people's lives and think that that's how we should be. Now, 70% is a huge number, but it's important to step back and ask ourselves, are you living authentically, or are you curating a version of yourself that fits into what you want people to think or see of you? And I think that's when we come into the next topic, which is about people pleasing. But before we jump into that, I want to say something about social media. I feel like today, the presence of social media has very much so changed in our life. Like the landscape has changed. Before, social media used to be about being social, connecting with people, building community, finding your people, right? Your little quirky people. And it used to be about really looking at people's lifestyle and traveling to places and having experiences that you never really thought you could have. And it really used to be about that. But today I feel like the culture of social media has changed so much. It has become so overly politicalized, right? It has become so hostile, such a bully environment when it didn't used to be this way. It used to really be about being social. But today it's just such a different environment. And I step back sometimes and look and say to myself, do I want to continue to be on certain apps that I feel like are very much so bullying people or, putting people down or trying to cancel people for their political views or their religious views, right? And I noticed that is changing. And I want people to know it's October, whoever's listening, wherever you are, it's October. November next month is our election. And I think during this time of the election is when we really begin to see people either be the best of themselves or the worst of themselves. And social media has amplified voices that spread misinformation, voices that spread hate, voices that spread confusion of people confusing things that they believe is true, right? And it's because they're listening to certain rhetoric. And I feel like just because you have a different opinion from I'm a Democrat, right? And I feel like even with me saying that, people are so afraid to say what political party they support simply because of a lot of backlash that they can receive. But I feel like just because I'm a Democrat doesn't mean I can sit across the table with a Republican and have a normal conversation with them. Because before we started really defining each other by our political parties, we used to all just be people. Yeah, we had people who were racist and they didn't like certain groups of people, minorities and stuff like that, people of color. But we knew that, right? That's always been in existence. That's not something new. Racist people are not something new. Racist people have always been there. So it's not something new that you deal with as a person of color. But today it's just so defined when it comes to the political party you associate yourself with and how people want to cancel you for speaking out on something that you believe wholeheartedly is true. Even if I believe that it's wrong, right? And then sometimes it is wrong information that you have, and then you're presented it in a way where you're really misleading or misinforming people. And that's not fair. But I don't understand why social media has become so political. It has become so political. It has become such a hostile environment to the point where I see big creators stepping back because when they step out with their political views, being authentically themselves, right, showing up as themselves, they get torn down just because their views don't agree with yours. And I think we need to look at that landscape, and that's where we begin to kind of mute ourselves. That's where we begin to not truly be our authentic selves because we don't know how people are going to react. Social media used to be that place where you can freely be yourself and you didn't care how people perceived you to be because you found your tribe. But now it's this thing of like, it has to be a certain look, it has to be a certain feel. And, it's become this whole production, this whole landscape of producing and of political views, which I really feel like sometimes people need to keep to themselves. But let's move on from there. I want to get into people pleasing. And this is a tough one. People pleasing is a tough one because I feel like this fits with influencers and content creators, right? Many of us have grown up like believing that to be accepted, we need to keep everyone around us happy, even at the expense of our own happiness, especially if you're a woman. Trust me, I know you've been through this. Now, whether it's at work or in relationships, right? Even with family, we often shrink ourselves or say yes when we really want to say no because we're afraid of the rejection or the disapproval from the other person if we say that. But here's the hard truth. People pleasing is a form of self-betrayal. And when I read that, I was like completely shocked when it says self-betrayal. Because you say to yourself, I don't want to betray myself. If nobody shows up for me authentically, if nobody supports me, if nobody, does anything, I want to make sure I'm good to me. But we betray ourselves every time we say yes to something where we know we really want to say no. Every time you bend over backwards for someone else while ignoring your own needs, you're actually telling yourself that their happiness matters so much more than yours. And I just don't think that's okay. It's time to stop apologizing for taking up space, for having your own opinions, or needing time for yourself. True authenticity means honoring your own needs and desires without feeling guilty. That's what truly being authentic is. When you're unapologetically yourself and you don't really give a good goddamn about what anybody else has to say, you're going to be yourself whether through the positive or the negative. That's how you stay true to yourself. That's how you are authentically you. We don't have to mute ourselves for social media. We don't have to mute ourselves for the presence of others, right? We just don't. But also, I feel like when it comes to social media, we don't have to hold people to certain standards. I think oftentimes when we look at influencers or creators who have millions of followers, we look at them as somebody that we know, right? We know, we trust, when honestly, we really don't know them. We only see what they want us to see, a version of themselves that they want us to be. We have no idea who they are when they cut that camera off. And I think we need to pay attention more to who we put on these pedestals. And then when they say something that disappoints you, then you feel like, oh my God, I can't believe this person did that. I thought I knew them. When really you never did. That is the truth. That is even with me. Like my audience, you guys listen, y'all might think y'all know me, but I might, maybe one day surprise you guys and do something. You might just be shocked, like, oh my God, I can't believe Shaunie did that. But that's how life is. And that's how people are. We don't fully know someone's shit. We barely know the people in our family really, because they can shock us and do things that we're like, I never thought they would do that. I never thought they would do that. So being true to yourself is stop putting people on pedestals too. Stop thinking that when someone makes a mistake that they're completely unforgivable. Stop thinking that when someone says my political views are different from yours, that they're just like the worst person in the world. We don't really know them. So when creators come out sharing their political views, because the environment now, social media is so hostile with this, and when they come out sharing their political views, people either going to be happy or upset. And I just don't think it's called for it. It's like when I watched the Call Her Daddy podcast, right? And she had Kamala on there. And she got so many followers upset just because she had this conversation with the vice president. She is the VP. And everybody got so upset with her. So many of her followers got so upset with her because they felt like they kind of now know which side she's going to vote. Now, mind you, I don't think she expressed it. If she did, I haven't seen that. But I don't really think she expressed which side she was going to vote. But what she did was that she had Kamala on there because she wanted to ask her questions that are important to her. And I think that's what people have to understand. When you go on someone's podcast or when these people are being interviewed by someone, you're going to ask questions that are important to you. As a citizens of this country, you have things that are important to you that you can ask your government officials. But what's important to you might not really be important to others. And so I just didn't understand the backlash that she caught by some people simply because she had the VP on her show. And I thought the VP did a great job, honestly, on her show. I thought she did a great job. And please stop saying that, oh, she shouldn't go on podcasts, because I got super offended when they said that, because, honey, this is a form of media. This is something that we like to do this. We're here to give you the best content that we can give you the things that we feel you need because you listen to the show. And when she did that interview, I'm pretty sure she had her audience in mind and felt like, hey, some people are going to like this, some people are not going to like this, and she's going to have to deal with that. And I think she was okay with it. And she came out and she stated why she had her on the show. She didn't apologize for having her on the show. She just stated why she did. So that's her. That's Alex Cooper being herself, her authentic self, saying, hey, you know what? I want to interview her because I have something I want to say. And that's her being her authentic self. So when you're trying to find strength in your true self, when people will try to knock you down, like, how do you do that, right? How do you find strength to embrace your authentic selves in a world that tells us you should just fit in? And one of the things I think can start with is acceptance. And I mean a radical type of self-acceptance, because you're not meant to be like anyone else. Your voice, your style, your ideas, they're yours for a reason. And the world needs them. Those little things that make you you, we need those things. So think about it. The most successful, magnetic people, right, are often those who unapologetically themselves. They're themselves. They don't apologize for being whoever they are. Whether you like them or you hate them, they don't care. But they live in a truth. And I think that's so important. It's such a freedom that comes with living in your truth. So Oprah Winfrey said, you become what you believe. So if you believe you're enough just as you are, that confidence will shine through and attract the right people, opportunities, and energy towards you. Because it's an energy. Because the truth is, the moment you stop apologizing for who you are, you unlock a different kind of power, like a superpower. A power that says, I know who I am, and I'm not afraid to show it. And that strength doesn't come from like external validation. You don't need nobody to validate you. That comes from within. Because it's not about being perfect. It's not about perfection. It's about embracing the parts of yourself that make you unique and using them as your greatest strength. That's really what that is. That's that superpower. Your uniqueness is your superpower. And I think I've said this numerous times before, that your uniqueness is your superpower. It really is. And so don't be afraid of being able to step out there. And of course, when we embrace our authentic selves, it's not always easy, right? Not everyone is going to get it. So we're going to deal with some rejection, and that's okay. So, being authentic often means that some people won't like it. And guess what? That's not your problem, right? You don't like me. That's not my problem. What you say about me is none of my business. None of my business. But we've been conditioned to fear rejection. We really have. We have been so conditioned to fear rejection, to fear judgment. But what if we kind of flip the script on that? What if rejection is just redirection to something or someone better for us? And we all know that, especially relationships. Come on now. We know if we get rejected by somebody, like if he doesn't want you, baby girl, that means you have been saved by the grace because there's somebody else out there for you. And that goes with anything we do in opportunities. If you didn't get a certain job opportunity, that's because there's something greater for you. Because when you show up as your true self, you naturally attract the right people into your life, the right situations, the right jobs, the right opportunities. The ones who accept you and appreciate you without conditions, those are the people you keep around. I have a quote that I love, and it says, "You can be the ripest, juiciest peach in the world, and there's still going to be someone who hates peaches. So let them. You're not here to please everyone. Everyone is not going to like it. Everyone is not going to like you. Everyone is not going to like it when you step up into your authentic self. People are not going to like it. People are going to think you change. And I can say that because I was one of those people who were, I'm not going to label myself a people pleaser, but I would do just about whatever I needed to do for my family, right? And at the expense of me sometimes feeling overwhelmed or not doing what I feel like I need to do for myself, and making it seem like what they are doing is so much more important than me. So I would drop everything and make sure I take care of whatever it is that they needed. So those one of the things that I know I'm guilty of, and I had worked through that. I've been working on that for the past 7 years. I really worked on it, where I began to understand that it's okay when I'm truly myself to set boundaries. Because when you embrace your authentic self, you set those boundaries and you stick to them. And so it was hard for my family to adjust. And this kind of setting boundaries goes hand in hand with the whole people pleasing thing, right? Setting boundaries can feel a little scary because it was scary for me, especially because I was used to bending over backwards for people. I was used to bending over backwards for my family. But boundaries, I realized, are essential to protecting your energy and staying really true to yourself. For example, I want to give you an example. If someone constantly criticizes you and puts you in a box, it's okay to limit your interactions with them. Who wants to be around the person that constantly criticizes them? Constantly telling them they're not doing enough. Constantly saying, "Oh, you could do this. You could do that. Oh, you can't really do that. You don't have what it takes. I don't think you should do that. Oh, you can't start a business because you don't have everything you need. You don't have all the money you need. You don't have this and that." Who wants to be around that negative Nancy? That person who only puts judgment and puts you in a box, saying that you cannot go any further than you are. So boundaries aren't just about saying no. They're about creating a space for what really matters to you. So when you set boundaries, you're giving yourself the freedom to live authentically without feeling pressure to be someone you're not. And I love that. I think that's what's important. Being able to set that boundary and say, "Hey, I'm not doing this." Boundaries are so important. I think we're beginning to really push those hard. Like, we're in a society now where boundaries, our mental health, our self-care, our personal care has become so much more important to us. I've seen big creators step back from social media because people were coming at them in such a way that was really affecting their mental health, and they had to take a break and they stepped back and they created boundaries. I see people who don't want to share too much of their personal life because they want to set a boundary there. And then some people don't like it because sometimes people feel like they should have all of you, right? They should know everything about you, but you're never going to know everything about someone. And that's okay. But setting boundaries really do help you. You don't want to betray yourself anymore by just letting people take advantage of you, by always saying yes to something when you're exhausted, when you just don't feel like it. And I'm going to tell you guys something I'm guilty of. And I'm not saying I'm guilty of it, but this is something that I do. When I don't want to do something, right? Sometimes people want to know why. When you say no, then there's a why that comes with it. Especially with kids. When kids, you say no to a child, then it's, "Well, why?" And then it's like, "Because I said so." And I begin saying that to people that I say no to. I just begin to say, "Because I don't want to." And then they're like, "Well, that's not a good enough reason." But I turn around and say to them is that, "Well, who are you to tell me that that's not a good enough reason? If I told you I don't want to do something and you asked me why, and I just said because I just don't want to, that should be good enough." Honestly, it should have just been a period at the end of my no. But people will try to push you, right? People will definitely try to push you and try to guilt you into doing something you really don't want to do because they feel like your reason for not doing it is not good enough. It's not good enough for them. But you know what? It doesn't have to be, because your no has a period at the end and that's it. I don't have to give a reason as to why I said no. This is just what it is. So now let's get into some practical steps to starting to embrace your authentic self that you can actually implement today. The first one is going to be pretty hard for you to do. It's hard for me to do. I'm not even going to lie. It's take a social media detox. Now, That is stepping away from like filters and your curated lifestyle, or either the curated lifestyle of others, and spend time offline and reconnect with what makes you feel good rather than doing what others are doing. Just what makes you feel good, because what makes you feel good is important. We gotta remember that we can't pour from an empty cup. I said this in my last episode, my last solo episode. We can't pour from an empty cup. We can't continue to give others when we don't have nothing to give. So we got to stop doing that. And stop apologizing for being different. Whether it's your style, your opinions, your dreams, embrace what makes you unique. You're not here to blend in or you are here to just be within whatever someone wants you to do. You are actually here to stand out. And those things that make you uniquely you are what makes you stand out. And you will find your community. You will find your tribe. You definitely will. And here's one of the hardest things I want you to do, which I know you're going to have hard doing, especially if you're a people pleaser. I want you to practice in saying no. This week, I want you to challenge yourself and say no to something that doesn't align with your values or your goals. Because it's okay to protect your time and energy. I want you to practice it. If it's something, I'm telling you right now, when you're not used to saying no to people, it is going to feel so foreign to you. It's going to feel like, oh my God, did I just say that? You're going to actually start feeling bad about it. But what I want you to do in that moment, remember that you cannot betray yourself. Don't feel bad by telling people no. And remember, they're going to try to guilt you into doing it. They're trying to guilt a yes out of you, but you got to remember to stand your ground and just say no. And then find yourself a support group. Like find a community of people or a friend or someone who uplifts you and encourage you to be your truest self. You know, who can, because honestly, those who can't handle your authenticity does not deserve your energy. If they can't handle you being authentically you, then they don't deserve you. They don't even need to be in your circle. They don't need to be nowhere around you. You don't want nowhere around you that continues to judge you and criticize you and try to make you feel bad for whatever decisions or things you do or the little quirky, little weird things that you might do. You don't want nobody to make you feel bad about that. So find yourself a group of people that can really support you, on your journey. And to celebrate your wins. Remember, I keep saying this so much. I feel like I say this almost every episode, even when I do my interview episodes. Celebrate your wins. Start acknowledging your strengths and celebrating your wins, no matter how small they are. No matter what, your self-celebration is a powerful way to reinforce your worth and build your confidence in who you are. It does not matter how small they are. If you achieved it, then celebrate it. You deserve it. And I don't mean you got to have a big old celebration. It could just be you with a glass of wine sitting on the couch and just saying, you did that, girl. You did the damn thing. That's all it has to be. So embracing your authentic self is a journey. It's not a destination. It's not somewhere that you're going to get and you say, okay, I'm finally, authentic. I'm finally authentic, you guys. No, it's a journey. It's something you're going to consistently work on. You're not going to wake up one day and have it all figured out, but every step you take towards living authentically is a step towards more joy, more peace, and fulfillment. Because remember, you are worthy just as you are. Stop apologizing for being you and start living in your truth. That's all you have to do. Because you're awesome just the way you are. You don't need to change yourself. You don't need to dim your light. You don't need to mute yourself for nobody. So listen, I want to thank you guys for joining me on this episode of Girl Take Note. And as usual, if today's message resonated with you, I would love to hear from you. I would love to hear your thoughts. Like hit me up on social media. We're at Girl Take Note Pod, or leave us a review, of course. And also just drop a comment on YouTube if you're watching on YouTube. And we would love to hear your thoughts. And so until next time, I want you guys to stay true to yourself, stay unapologetic, and always keep taking note. I'll see you guys in the next episode.